Hey, welcome back to The Hook with Chris, where we get behind the scenes and thoughts of business owners and people moving the needle. Who am I? I'm Chris Weitzel, the owner of Chris Seafood. Our brick and mortar locations located at 1300 Seagrave, Unit 4 in Woodstock, Ontario. I bring to the table 20 years of sales experience from the finance industry and more recently the retail sector. My wife Holly and I ran a roadside fruit and vegetable stand while also attending the Woodstock Farmers Market selling fish and seafood. It was at these venues we've amassed thousands of face-to-face sales. I love sales and food almost as much as I love business. Today we are joined, first episode that we're actually doing online, and I'm joined by my friend Tyler Woelfle, online health and fitness consultant. And little quick history, he is actually business owner at B Original Coaching. Went to Huron Park Secondary School in Woodstock. He's a personal trainer at both Good Life and Movati. And if you can believe this, I was preparing for this weekend, Tyler, and 7 years ago, a memory pops up on Facebook of you on stage at the Woodstock Home Show. And it was this weekend at the home show. And so I did not know, it did not seem like 7 years ago that I kind of coerced you to go on stage a couple times, but
I remember that moment distinctly, and you want to know why I remember that moment? That moment sticks in my head because that was the day that I realized I could speak in front of any audience ever. It was like I had a Europe trip planned, and that was like the last to-do list. And I was the first speaker, and there was not one person in the crowd because we spoke at like 3.
I know.
And I remember like thinking to myself, like, oh man, like it's going to be scary speaking to a bunch of people. And then I got on the stage and realized, like, no, it's way scarier speaking to nobody. So I did the whole presentation with people like walking around in the back, but nobody was actually in the seat. And it was that day where I was like, okay, well, I've been thrown in the fire and now I'm good. Talking to people is going to be easy. So it was a cool moment in a weird way for me.
I'm glad I could help contribute to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I was preparing for that this weekend and before, that was cool to see that. But I was going through your old LinkedIn material. I like scrolling through, and I came across and I think it was about 4 years ago. It was one of your first LinkedIn posts. It might have even been your first, and it reads, "In order to get well, you have to be willing to stop the things that are making you sick." And I'm just wondering, so what's making us sick, Tyler?
Oh man. My views on this have, I wouldn't say changed over the years, but they've compounded on each other. So like when I first started, it was like, what's making us sick? Like, oh wow, lack of exercise. Everyone needs to exercise more. Then then studied nutrition for a long time, and it turned into, oh wow, it's our food that's making us sick. Stuck with that for a long time. Now, then I kind of got into like, oh, it's actually poor stress management, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
that's making us sick. And now I still hold all of those things to be true, for sure. But like now, the last couple of years, the things that have kind of have inspired me, and the things that I'm thinking about in regards to that question now is that um, it's actually has a lot to do with, I would say, unresolved stuff from the first couple years of our life, and not knowing how to process that physically, emotionally, and those things we hang on to,
Mm-hmm.
and we think because they're in the past that they're gone, they're distant memories, but they're not. They're definitely stored in the body. They become behaviors, they become postures, they become patterns that repeat themselves and relate in various relationships. They become poor communication techniques. They become perceptions of the world that you believe are true because they were true for you at one point, but it's not a total truth. Um, that's so I'd say an accumulation of all those things. But I think if I mean, you hit me with a big question right out the gate, which I love, but like that's like, it's all of those things, but it's not one of those things.
Right. I hear you.
You know what I mean?
So when you're sitting down with a brand new client, and is that what's your initial assessment? I'm a brand new client coming to Tyler. I want to get jacked. I want to be better. What does somebody expect when they want help?
Yeah, I just a quick, like, 30-second, 20-second backstory. Got into this when I was 17 years old. Worked at Movati and Good Life for a bit. Went on my own for a bit. Um, Took a bunch of courses and continuing education that, like, really, yeah, Paul Chek was a huge major influence in my development, and all the stuff that him and his courses kind of put me on. I was taught in person by him 3 on 4 occasions, I think. I had a lot of experience there, and like that really exposed me to a ton of information that, like, coming from a small Ontario town, was like nothing short of mind blowing. And anyways, and it really sent me into the weeds, so to speak. So as I forget what it's called, but there's this curve. There's when it comes to learning anything, there's this curve. I really wish I knew the name of it, but I forget what it's called. And it's represented in a graph. And basically, in the beginning of that curve, you don't actually know much, but your confidence is super high. You think you know everything. Then, as you start learning, your knowledge goes up, but your confidence goes super down, because you realize how much there is to learn and how little you actually know.
Yeah.
And then the end point of the curve is something like, you find an area that you are comfortable in saying you know enough about, but you're also humble in the fact that you know still a very little piece, because it's just next to impossible to know everything, even about one thing. So along that road, I went into the weeds a lot. And the way I serviced people, like in this initial assessment that you're asking me about, the way I did that 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, is like significantly different than what I do now. And the thing that I've changed is just making it more simple. Like, when I was studying all these things and they were blowing my mind, and I was applying them and seeing, like, insane positive changes to my life and my relationships and my view on the world, and just everything. I just wanted so badly for people to know. Like, I just wanted them to, like, do this, it works, and it was almost like feeding information through a fire hose, and then coming to the realization that that was actually just almost like a overburdening people, giving them too much too soon. So, like, I wasn't getting, like, the results that I was, like, my good intentions were hoping for. So I had to kind of, like, take a step back, and now I just have tried to get really, really good at just meeting people where they're at. And you do this by, like, with nutrition, for example. Like, I have a 3-level system where it's like, level 1 is kind of just like, are you within a specific calorie range? Are you hitting protein targets? Done. Let's get you there. Most people will see all the results that they want and can play in that range for 5 years.
No shit.
And still always see continual progress.
Yeah.
Then level 2 is like, we can start experimenting with different things. Maybe we do periods of caloric restriction. Maybe we do intentional periods of, like, so that would be like intermittent fasting. Maybe we experiment with different diets. We try vegetarian, we try keto. We just experiment because we have a really strong foundation laid out. And some people will find that, like, oh, this way of eating works really good for me. But I'm not dogmatic about it. That this works. When you add this, it's almost it's a supplement. And then level 3 is where I used to start before. So level 3 is like, where's your meat coming from? Where are your vegetables coming from? Are they, are you choosing organic when you can? Because it does make a difference. Are they local? Are you supporting local businesses? Are you eating in season? Like, you can get really technical, and the biggest thing that I find is people always come and they want to start here, and it's like, why? Like, why? And give me another scenario where going right to the one end of the extreme works. So my assessment right now is just like, how many grams of protein do you eat in a day? And I'll get like a lot of like 200-pound males telling me they're eating 60 grams of protein, because their answer is, I have no idea. And then they track it and they tell me I'm eating 60 grams of protein. I'm like, oh, like, do you know that you should be eating 200 grams of protein? Right? Or how many calories are you eating? I have no idea. I get a lot of like women that come and they're 600 calories, 700, 800, 1,000 calories under, and they're having all these like hormonal issues and they can't figure it out why. And it's like, well, like, is it going to solve all the problems? No, but it's going to take care of a lot. So like, in terms of nutrition, it's protein targets, calorie ranges. Show me you can do that for a year, and then we can have a different conversation. In terms of training, it's like, I have 4 or 5 exercises that I want you to get good at: back squat, front squat, overhead press, trap bar deadlift, chin up. I want you to get good at those exercises. We can spend a year getting good on those exercises,
Right.
and then we can have a more advanced conversation. So that's kind of like how what the structure of like the beginning stages look like, with the people that I'm assessing.
Is it tough to get people to buy into that? I want you to do 5 exercises for 12 months. Is there like, I understand where you talk about on that level 3, um, from the food aspect, you're looking at more like a holistic macro type thing. But is it tough to get people to say, oh, wow, you 5 exercises for how long? What's their reaction when it's that simple? When it's
Well,
that simple, but
it is that simple, but I've also read many books on sales and marketing, so I don't brand it like that. I brand it as like, get jacked and see results while eating the foods that you love, because that's what we're doing.
mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing. But like, in the gym, for example, the most common thing that I see when I go into a gym is people that go in and they're looking around. Okay, this machine's open. I'll do some stuff there. Okay, I was going to use that machine, but it's not open. Okay, I'll go use this one. It's random. The next time they come in, they try and do something similar, unless it's taken. They don't really tracking their rest times. They don't know how much weight they're lifting. Their rep ranges are staying pretty consistent. Like, they're not changing. They're not using tempos. They're not like, so the training is just completely random, and the food's completely random. And it's like, the thing I have learned, like, with all transparency,
Mm-hmm.
I tell everybody that starts up with me, like, I am not going to give you some secret information that isn't out on the, I don't have it. I don't have a secret food. I don't have this secret way of training. Nope. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to systemize things that are so simple, but they work. Because people think, like, a lot of people think like they want, like, I want a lot of variability and I want it to be fun. But then, like, you let them do that for a bit, and because they just are throwing a bunch of random stuff, they don't see results. And then they do this and they get results, and they're like, oh no, actually what I wanted was results.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I take an approach that's worked for hundreds of years, and I systemize it in a way that's clear cut. You don't have to do any work. You just do what's on the paper, so to speak. And I help you I help you stay accountable. That's it. Like, those are the main things. The complexities of like the nutrition and the training and then this and that is like, I can have those conversations, but especially with like my target audience and like my clientele and my demographic, like, those conversations are just kind of, I don't want to say unnecessary, but it's just like, yeah, I guess unnecessary is a good way to. We don't need to make it complicated.
Right. So who is your target market? What's your ideal? Like I read on your site, you're targeting 25 to 35-year-olds. That's your target market?
Yeah, like I would say like my target audience is 25 to 35-year-old males.
Right.
It's not like I have females message me and be like, "Hey, like I know this is, what's in your bio and on your website and stuff, but like would you train me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." Like I don't turn them I don't turn them down. I have a few, like what typically happens is like a, a guy will train with me and then his wife will start training with me,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. Principles are still the same. There is certainly some things that are different. And I definitely don't claim to be an expert on training women, but I do certainly know, like with nutrition, like for instance, an example is like fasting. Fasting might be really helpful for men, not that great for women. None of the studies were done on women. Weight training, like weight training might change depending on where you are in your cycle. So it's like there are these little kind of like, um, there are things to know for sure, but like yes, my target demographic is males between the ages of 25 and 35, and that's where I am.
Yeah.
I'm 30. I'm right smack in the middle of that. So I know what it's like to be 25 as a male wanting to train, and I know what I want in 5 years. And I feel very confident that I have a very good blueprint or a plan of how to get to where I want to be. So that's kind of like, that's why I chose that.
Yeah.
I've chosen that kind of that market.
So you mentioned intermittent fasting. What are the nuances around? It seems to be the buzzword now, fasting. Um, like what? Tell me a little bit about what somebody should be looking for if they're starting. They've heard it. They're now curious. Where should somebody start that's never fasted before? I'm curious.
Yeah, cool. So I would say the place to start is actually nothing to do with fasting. The place to start is, are you hitting protein targets and are you able to stay within a calorie range consistently? Like that's an annoying answer for someone who wants to learn about fasting, but that is that is the best way to do it, because here's the thing. Fasting is not a permanent solution. Like I I'm actually applying intermittent fasting right now. I told you before we started,
Mm-hmm.
I gained about 15 pounds in 3 months, intentionally, and kind of realized like, oh, okay, like I was eating like 16, 17, sometimes 2,100 calories at breakfast, right?
I seen some of your
And
breakfast. That was
yeah, it was crazy. Like I got up to 2,300 calories for a breakfast,
yeah.
right? And like I was eating I got up to about 4,600 calories a day. Um, and uh, Without getting into it, because I don't think it really matters that much, but like my body has been recently giving me some signs that like, okay, we need to change the approach, right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to use a tool that worked for me in the past. And so fasting is a supplement. Fasting is a temporary solution, and fasting should be looked at as a tool, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can only no like no everybody knows no supplement on a store shelf is going to solve eating nothing or eating like trash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, same thing here. So the first thing you need to know about fasting actually has nothing to do with fasting, and it has to do with like, do we know what calorie range we should be in, how much protein are we eating in a day, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't know that, you're going to fast, you're going to see quick results. Like you're basically just restricting calories. So if you eat less calories than you if you consume less calories than you burn, you lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you use it as like I got 30 days for this vacation, like I'm just not confident that that's going to be a good solution over the long term, because what happens when you're done fasting? You're going to go back to eating, and you're just going to do this yo-yo thing. And like, one of the worst things is yo-yoing.
Yeah.
Constantly gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. So like, first thing you need to know about fasting, figure out your foundation first and stick to it for a long time. Show yourself that you can do it.
Mhm.
Now, because like I said, the level 2 thing, you do want to get into fasting. Amazing. So first thing you do is I would recommend that you don't start with a 20 hours off and 4 hours on, right? Which seems like, I laugh, but people do this all the time.
Right.
Like, people will jump right. So can you go 12 hours without eating? Okay. Can you go, the next would be like 16 hours, right? And you could go 20 and 4 if you want to, but like, slowly progress it, and not like in 3 days. Progress it over like 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Fasting requires what I call metabolic flexibility. So metabolic flexibility is like, if you are a person who has a very high carb diet, you're going to have, you more, probably not always, you may have more spikes in blood sugar and more dips. If that happens, you're going to be the person that you get like really hangry, or you get like really dizzy if you don't eat. And if you're like that, fasting is going to be really hard for you. If you're a person who hits protein targets, consumes healthy fats in your diet,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't eat carbohydrates all by themselves, or eat an excessive amount of carbohydrates, your metabolic flexibility is going to get better. Your blood sugar levels aren't going to be so sporadic and up and down. You're going to be able to go longer between meals without feeling like you want to, fight somebody. You're not going to be like, as you're going to train yourself kind of not to be as ravenous. So like, you're so hungry, you see something, you just want to eat anything.
Yeah.
So yeah. Like, you walk into the store after a workout, and you're just like, your whole body wants to look at the cakes, because you're so deprived of food and energy that you just want the quickest thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's another thing too. And people say like, oh, I'm just going to listen to my body. I'm like, well, that's great. But like, you need to develop a foundation before you start like listening to your body. Because if I listen to my body after a workout, and I'm hungry, my body's telling me things that like are definitely not the smartest decision, So it's like, that's a learnable skill, is like listening to your body, But yeah, like, with fasting, you would slowly condense the window. You see a lot of people doing like you'll see, like, I think Dana White, or like famous people, they're like, I did 7-day fast and lost, like, well, yeah, if you stop eating, you lose weight. But like, these quick and dirty extreme approaches to anything are just always kind of like, I like to put a red flag on those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we were talking, I have to bring it up, is you mentioned the training. You were training in for the Canadian, with the Canadian bobsled team.
Yes, I was. I want to be very clear about this. I was not on Team Canada. I was not. I wasn't even on the developmental team. I was just out. I got a cool opportunity to go out with them, and I spent about a month this year, basically helping a pilot, a friend of mine who was in Beijing Olympics, as a he wasn't a pilot, the guy driving it, but he was in, I think he was a brakeman in the Beijing Olympics. He switched to pilot. So he's in his developmental year of driving, training for 2026.
Okay.
He came into the gym one day and was like, I need guys to basically get my practice runs for this year. And I got asked. So I went out just as kind of like a crash dummy, to be honest with you, But it was yes, I was with the like Team Canada bobsled team and all the other nations that were around.
So what can you add to about being in that type of environment with those type of, like, pretty, I guess you can say, elite athletes?
Olympic level athletes. Like I remember I was in Park City, and it's called NAC, North American Cup Races.
Okay.
And I was sitting in the warm up room, and I'm looking around, and there was 8 guys in the room who had been to the Olympics, and I kind of had this like holy crap moment, how did I get here?
That's
It's
a
just
surreal.
so yeah, you're around elite level freak show athletes. Yeah.
What is like that's a next level activity right there. Like, what did that do for your own personally? What did that do for you in your own training?
Um, it made me experiment.
Okay.
It made me experiment. It made me experiment with like putting on weight. It made me experiment with like training sprinting a bunch more. Um, oh my God, tested a bunch of mental resilience, because I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't scared shitless every single time I was about to get in that sled.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we talked about it, and some, I'll say all the time, most times you'll start from corner 7, corner 3, right? And we went from the top every single time. I was at all 3 tracks in North America. So Park City, Utah, Whistler, and Lake Placid most recently. From the top every time. I think it probably got between maybe around 30 runs. And yeah, like a lot of mental resilience. Like I would be up the night before trying to fall asleep, and my body is just like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Like it is, when I watch that sport from this point forward, I am like, those, it's a crazy thing. I never got to the point where I was like, okay, super comfortable, like ready, like, nope. My first run, my last run, scared shitless.
Wow. How fast are you going?
Depends on the track. You got anywhere between, I would say, 100 and, depends on track and ice conditions. Me personally, depending on the track, between 100 and 120, 100, just over 120 kilometers an hour and just under 150 kilometers an hour. Whistler is the fastest track in the world, and the speed record, I think, there is 156 kilometers an hour. I'm pretty certain that's the track record there, set by a Latvian team, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fast, and you're like, it was a weird thing because I'm like, there is zero control.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. Like I am a brakeman. I push for 5 seconds. I jump in. I reach forward and I pull my head down and put it as low to the ground as possible. And you just hold and hope. You make yourself really big so you fill out the sled. You grab tightly and you get down and you pop out of the sled, because the pilot will yell brakes. You pop out of the sled, you pull the brakes, and you get out, and everyone's like, Jay will turn around and you good? And I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like bruised, sometimes my hand's bleeding everywhere. Like, so it's just, it is a wild sport. A wild sport. It's if we were in a 4-man sled in Lake Placid, the most recent trip I did, and it's with all the guys in it and the sled, it's 1,400 pounds traveling down a ice tunnel at 130 kilometers an hour. Like, it is just, everything about it is just absolutely insane.
Wow.
To be honest. Yeah.
Do you get a chance to go back, or is that?
So the season's over. This is like, the thing is like, because I told you what this year was for me, it was just like an experience. The next would be like, the next is like, you're in your developmental year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of the athletes are going to be going to Calgary for the summer, and then they're on tour for 6 months between North America and Europe for the season next year. I'm actually like, it's even hard for me to say it right now, because it's like, it was a tough decision, but it's just like, I I like I got what I wanted out of it,
Right.
and you have to be, because my feeling, because you're with people who are, this is what they're doing. Like, this isn't like a recreational sport they're having fun. This is like they're trying to go to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything else is just doesn't matter. And if I'm really honest with myself, I can't get there mentally,
Right.
because like I have like my work and like my work, to be honest. My work is the thing that I'm like, that's really what I want to put all my attention and all my focus into. And like, going against that, I wouldn't be able to be fully present. And these guys are freak show athletes. I can train hard and get good.
Yeah.
But like, am I ever going to be that good? Probably not. Like, they're really, really, really fast. And, it's just like, so it's accepting the reality of that,
Mhm.
and then realizing like what I actually feel inside of me is the right decision,
Yeah.
is and going and moving towards that, even though it's like,
Yeah.
it's a tough one, but it's the right one.
So you have to listen to your body. You were taking in, north of 4,000 calories. You're training hard. You had mentioned you're training 11, how many, a crazy number of times a week.
One block was 15, and then another block was 11. But a lot of those sessions were like AM, PM sessions, and then a sprint on top of that or something. So,
So when you're,
but lots of time.
when you're listening to your body, what told you it's time to, let's pump the brakes? What was it that your body, you were listening to? What was your body telling you that, okay, maybe you went a little hard, or let's.
Yeah, a few things. So one thing that was, I'm still kind of working through, was I I don't set an alarm. So like, that's one thing I like, some people might listen to that and be like, oh, it must be nice, but like, I have the luxury of not setting an alarm. And I use it. I let my body sleep. I think that like, from the like information that I've gathered, sleep is one of the most important. Like, if there's a super pill, it's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I'm training hard, I'm doing all this stuff. Like, I'm letting my body sleep, no alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, finding, like, I've never really used an alarm, and before I would be up like 5, 6, sometimes 4:30. I had a period in my life where I was waking up at 3:30 every day, because I would like had 4 hours of quiet time in the morning to study, when I lived at home. So I've done the waking up early thing, and like all that, and I always kind of get between like 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Like, I sleep pretty good. The last, I would say, 6, 7 months, I've been sleeping like 10 hours, 11 hours. Like, I've gotten out of bed some mornings and it's like 9:40, and I'm like, okay, that's like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I got stuff to do. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. So it's like, part of it is, I'm at the gym late, and I get home and I wind down and make some food, and I watch a show, and then I'm like going to bed at 11:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
So some of it's like a little, my bedtime's a little later. Like, when I was getting up at 3:30, like 8 years ago, I was going to bed at 8 or 8:30, right? So totally, that just makes sense. The times have just shifted.
Mm-hmm.
But sleeping more, which some people might think like, oh, well, that's really good, let your body sleep. But I'm sure, great. But I'm also like, why? Why does my body need 10 hours of sleep? So that, but because I was training so much, and because like I'm also like physically busy, but I'm also very, very mentally busy. Like, I remember reading this, like, a chess grandmaster will burn 6 to 8,000 calories in a day
Mm-hmm.
playing chess.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy, like, whoa, like, that would, I wouldn't have guessed, even I would have guessed a quarter of that number.
Mm-hmm.
And then that really put it in perspective, like how much energy you use if you just by thinking. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm a very mentally busy person. I'm a very physically busy person. And I'm ramping up both of those things right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like with work, I'm ramping it up. And with training, I'm ramping it up. So I'm just going to let myself have 10 hours of sleep. So I did that, whatever. It was good. Then I was, dealing with I just had some injuries, which are kind of like, whatever. This is part of training. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Nothing like debilitating or anything, but just stuff that was always there. But the thing that really made me stop and be like, oh, okay, I really got to pump the brakes and figure this out was I got sick 3 times in about like 2.5 months, which is like so abnormal for me. I might go 3 years without getting sick. If I look at, since I've been 19 or 18 when I started like really implementing all the stuff that I find works. Sick a handful of times in that like 10-year period. Last 3 months, I've been sick 3 times. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a problem for me. And it really shined a light on like, what's the thing that I want the most? It's like, it's not weighing a certain amount. It's not actually like performing at an elite level. It's actually when you're feeling sick, I realize like, oh, this is the thing that I value the most, my health. And anyways, and there's also like, I'm self-employed. So like, it's like, relies on me. So like, I need my health. I can't really afford to have days where I'm out with something. So, I know enough about gut health and how our microbiome and intestinal flora really have a huge impact on our immune system. And stress levels have a huge impact on our immune system. And so just kind of like taking my own medicine in that regard. And just like, that was the thing where it made me go, okay, let's get back to those basics and back to the things that worked for me before. And maybe it will work again, or maybe it's something else. And then I got to figure that out. Like, don't know, but I'm trying.
Makes sense. Now, going back to you said this journey for you started back when you were 17, when you started into training, and then you just mentioned there that's when you started this way. What was the why? What got you in like late teen years when most people are out, gallivanting, and what made it click that you wanted to, like, was it personal development then already that you were thinking like changing mindset types of things, or what was the why that got you going down the journey that you're on now?
But for the record, I was one of those kids that was out there partying, gallivanting, being a little shit disturber. That was that was definitely me. I was doing that. The thing, it's actually funny that the story is this. In grade 11, end of grade 11, I got called down to the office from like whatever, like my guidance counselor or something. And it was like, hey, she sat me down and she looked at me and she's like, hey, what do you want to be when you're older? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, literally perplexed about this question. My answer was like, my friends know the answer to this. Like, I was like, what the heck? I was so mind blown about this question. And it was like, it wasn't like a conversational, like, what do you want to be? It was like her asking me, like, we're going to make a decision based off of your answer right now. And I was like, I said to her, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing when I get home from school. Like, how do my friends have answers to this?
Right.
So anyways, like feeling kind of like I should know the answer to this. We kind of went through some different options in terms of like what to apply for school. And I was like, well, I don't know, like, I guess a firefighter, like, sure, firefighter sounds good. So she's like, okay, well, if you want to be a firefighter, you should do paramedic first. And I'm like, okay, whatever, great, let's do it. So we applied to some colleges. It might have been grade 12, actually, now that I think about like what's some 11 or 12, some time around that point in my age, point in my life. And get accepted. I got turned down by one school, accepted by another one. We got in the car, like my parents and I were going to tour the school. We get to the school, we walk through, and the whole time I'm just thinking like, oh hell no. Like there is no way that I am going to this environment in these dorms with these other people my age and I am doing anything remotely useful. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way. I'm gonna party. I'm not gonna want to go to class, and I'm gonna do like I'm already not interested. I'm not gonna do like I'm not gonna care. Like I'm just not gonna care. And I got in the car, and my mom and dad were like, like, what do you think? And I just looked, and I was like, guys, I can't. Like I can't do that. That is. My parents also like were had told me that like they had been putting money away for school, and like I felt like I was like, I'm going to waste all of your money. Mm-hmm. Like I will waste all of your money if I go and do this. And my mom said to me, I still remember it clear as day. Like she looked at me and she said, that's fine, but you got to have a plan. You can't be a bum in my basement. And I was like, all right, done. Like I'm too like being a bum in a basement to me. Like doesn't seem appealing whatsoever. So I was like, okay, well that's easy. I can do that. So I started to think, I was like, okay, well, what do I like to do right now? I was like, well, I've been going to the gym 5 days a week for 2 years and nobody's been making me do that. I do it myself and I love it. I'd already been like studying some stuff. I was like into a guy named Charles Poliquin. I was learning these strength things. I was like watching my results compared to my friends or even guys that have been in the gym for a long time. And I was like, just rocketing past them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, like I'm onto something here. I got some information that like people don't know about clearly. And anyway, so I just was like, okay, well, I love the gym. So let's start there. So I did a co-op because grade 12, I was like, how do I make this the easiest year possible? And so I did a co-op at the gym. It like was the whole afternoon or whatever. And it was great. I think I spent more time like flirting with girls than I did doing any sort of gym work. Like it was awesome. I got to talk to people and make people laugh, and I got to control the music, and like it was just a great experience. And I got to watch trainers and shadow trainers and be in the gym.
Right.
And then yeah, like I remember when I talked to the manager, and he was like, we can get you a job in a year when you're a little older. Saw this guy with a personal trainer shirt on. He was actually he became the fitness manager, and he was the guy that pretty well taught me everything I knew about like Charles Poliquin and training. So for him, it was like, well, perfect. I'll hire this kid. Everything he knows is what I've taught him. Like it's a perfect recipe. So anyways, I got into it, started training. Really liked the fact that I was like making money rather than being in debt. I thought that was cool. Started seeing the potential of like how infinite this industry is, and like how complex the human organism is, and like how there's infinite areas of study or things that you can go into. And like I dipped into a lot of that stuff, like stuff that I never ever thought in a million years I would be interested in or like really care deeply about. I went into it pretty hard, and like to this day, it's just like I still find it so awesome, because it's not like I don't have to be pigeonholed in this one way of thinking, this one routine. I get to like constantly thinking of new ideas or marketing strategies or ways to help more people. And like, you just get to use that part of my brain the whole time. So that's where it started, me being completely perplexed at the question of what do you want to do when you're older?
Okay. So then fast forward a bunch of years, you're now 30. Let's kind of shift into the business side of things now. As an online health and fitness consultant, like, this is where I'm kind of trying to add a bit of value to anybody who may be listening to this and going, I like the sounds of that. I'm curious too. So like, what are the methods that you're using now to develop a client base? Is it, I mean, I love your content. I I mean, I think that is awesome. So we can go down that road on content creation, but how are you building a client base now? How would you start building a client base?
Yeah, like how would I if I was starting as somebody who's not in the industry?
Well, yeah, because you're now in, you're a lot more, you're established. What would you tell the person learning like, don't repeat these things that I did. I would do this instead, or that type of thing. What's working?
Right. This is like I really want to give you a like a solid answer on this, but it's so tricky for me because it's like everybody. This is going to sound so cliche and maybe annoying to some people, but it's like everybody is such an individual, and like your business and how you navigate through that. Like I see my business as an expression of myself. Like when I am working on myself and I'm doing things that I know I should do better, but like I can just ignore them other times. Like when I'm doing that and growing as a person, whatever that means to me,
Hmm.
my business grows. It gets better. When I'm in a period of like kind of just coasting, I'm paused, my business is just right there with me. So, and it's also like there's a lot of like creative expression is like essential um, in a business. So like first of all, like are you willing to fail? Because you're gonna. Like you are going to fail. It's not a matter of if you're going to, it's a matter of when. And are you going to fail? It's not like are you going to fail once or twice? It's going to like are you going to fail like 80 times or like 200 times?
Hmm.
Because you're going to fail. You're going to fail. So like if failure is something that like ooh really scares you, you might be better off working for somebody. You know what I mean?
I
Like
know
you
what you
you might be better off. You might be better off working for somebody, and that's totally okay. Like it's not a bad decision. And it's like so there's so many things, and like some people are more kind of like they feel good. Like I have a buddy who like he feels really good about just like zoning in on one thing, and he can just kind of move through life like this. And sometimes I'm envious of it because I think like, oh, if I was better at that, like these areas or these failures that I've had maybe wouldn't have happened. And it's like, sure, so that's one strategy. Like pick a niche that is like super, super, super niche and close your eyes to everything else and just target that for 10 years
be so
or
good they
5
can't
years.
ignore you.
Exactly. Like just target the smallest, most unique niche that you can possibly find and do that. That's probably a way to be very successful the quickest.
Hmm.
Is that what I did? Is that what I do? No, because I don't know what it is. I just can't. Like, I just can't do it. I'm like, I just can't. Like, I don't know. And it's like from from a business perspective, is that the best decision? From what I read, doesn't sound like it. But like from like a me having fun with my work,
Hmm.
it's great.
Yeah.
So it's like there's multiple approaches for everybody, but the I actually had a conversation about this earlier today, which is interesting. Like I think hands down, if you are a person who's not in the industry, you haven't you maybe had a trainer or you just got fit yourself and you like really want to help people. I think the best way to do that is to go get hired at a big box gym.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of people don't agree with that. A lot of people, clients and coaches included, talk a lot of smack about like good lives and bodies and stuff.
Hmm.
I'm completely in the other camp because I'm like, okay, yes, they take 60%, 50% of your income. Okay, you get $1 million facility.
Mm-hmm.
You get an infinite flow of members. You get um, sales and marketing material given to you. You get access to other coaches who have been in the industry for a really long time, and you get managers and people that are on your team to support you, to help you run a booth, to help you come up with an idea, to help you host a workshop, to help you, like,
Yeah.
whoa, and like, oh, they're taking 60% of my pay. Okay, well, like, if you're a young kid, you can make $30 as a trainer like a week from now. You need a weekend course.
Mm-hmm.
You can start and make $24 to $32 as a starting level trainer in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you got to hustle to get clients? Yep, for sure. Do you got to learn how to sell? Yep, for sure. They actually now have people that are selling packages for people. So, like, you do the math, like, $25 an hour, that's profit, times 40 hours a week. Like, if you're a 21-year-old, like, that's pretty good damn money, like, it's so I think starting there and then having a clear exit strategy is a good idea. And, like, the exit strategy being like 2 to 3 to 4 years out, because the thing people don't think about is like, oh, well, I don't like that they're taking 60% of my profit margins. I'm like, okay, well, you get to keep 100% of your profit margins, but if you want to keep 100% of your profit margins, now you have to own a space.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to buy equipment. So now, if you do the math, you're actually not profiting for probably like a year or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've got to figure out how to market yourself. Okay. Well, how do I do that? Well, that's a full-time job. You've got to spend money on ads. You've got to learn how to make content. You've got to get people in the door so the word of mouth can start spreading. Like, your amount of responsibilities becomes way, way, way more. And I guarantee you, in the first few years of your business, that 60% cut doesn't seem so bad once you're completely buried in all these other responsibilities outside of being a trainer. Plus, your confidence is high, but you don't actually know that much.
Right.
So you also have to spend tons of time learning, which these big gyms will actually pay you to do.
Yeah.
So, like, getting into the fitness industry, in my opinion, like, that's what I did, and that's what I would still recommend. Like, you go to a big box gym, put your nose to the grindstone, and work for 2 to 3 years and build something cool. Get yourself full of clients. Like, working 30 hours a week as a trainer, making whatever. Like, when I left Movati, like, I remember I took like the T4 or the like the slip to the accountant, and she was like, "You made this? Like, you're a what?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, you can make some pretty good money. Like, you're making like I was, as a level 4 trainer, I think I was making $45 an hour, and then you're working 30-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're doing all right. You know what I mean? And you get to go home and just forget about everything. You come in and, like, they've got 6,000 members waiting for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. And then your exit strategy, you will start to see the business, and then your exit strategy, because for sure, if you want to take it to the next level, then yeah, you gotta get out. So then that becomes kind of like a separate conversation.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned right there, you get to go home. I will guarantee you, Tyler, that now you're in that position where you don't really get to go home and forget about the business at all, because I imagine it's pretty always something in the back of your mind.
Always.
So I'm going to guarantee you now, Tyler, that you don't really get to shut your brain off having your own business, because there's always going to be something in the back of your mind, whether it be, I need to get X contacts. I need to contact so many people to close. Now we're talking about a closing ratio that they would have taught you in a good life or Movati kind of atmosphere, right? But the one thing I have to, like, your content, where are you coming up with some of these ideas? I mean, I see you sometimes fucking crawling on a mat. Like, I see you walking, where do you come up with this shit, man?
Oh man, I don't know. If you hang out with me, like I am actually I am a very I'm a very, very, very goofy person. Like I love making people laugh. I was always the class clown. There actually is a little part inside of me um, that if I did have like a regret or something that like maybe I would have done differently
Mhm.
with that, like you got to have a plan, um, is like just strictly made goofy YouTube content from the age of 18 and seen where that goes. And like, there's points like with the way the world has gone. I look at people who did do that and the amount of like opportunities it's blossomed into for them.
Mhm.
Like I do often think to myself like, oh wow, that could have been it. But the thing was the reason why was just I didn't have the exposure. Like I didn't nobody else was doing it. I didn't grow up in LA. I didn't grow up in I never watched enough of that stuff to like realize like maybe if I was really into gaming and I could see people who had
Mhm.
big followings and maybe I would have been like, oh, that's something cool. But I never really I have like a bunch of funny vlogs. Like I would always like make funny videos in my house and like I always loved doing that. And yeah, like now it just kind of pours over into my content. Like it's like there's I just know I need to make content. Like that's how people see me. And like there will be 2 week spurts where I'm like, oh, skits would be really funny. And then there's 2 week spurts where it's like, oh, okay, I'll post some like educational stuff or like, okay, I'll toss in some nutrition. Like, um, to be honest, like I'm sad. Like if completely transparent, like I'm satisfied with my content. Like I'm satisfied with the consistency of my content. Like I've for probably about 6 or 7 years, I think I posted every day. Like
Mhm.
that part's easy to me. But it's more of like I said before, like figuring out the niche, finding like the hook that works, and like it's always experimenting. And I don't feel like I have it like figured out. I just think that I don't know. I sometimes I feel really goofy and I want to make goofy content. Sometimes I feel serious and I want to make serious content. Sometimes I make content and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I actually want to post that. You know what I mean? Like I'll say something or whatever. Like it's so I don't know. There's no real rhyme or reason, man. It's just like that's the mood I'm in that day.
So what do you tell the person that says, "Oh, I don't know, social media. I don't." Do you come across those people who aren't buying into that social media is like I? And this is me who I bought in. I'm a big Gary V fan. Met him a couple times. Get to meet him again in California this summer.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're all through the NFT, and that's a whole other.
Sweet.
But
Okay, sweet. Cool. We can have a conversation about that another time.
oh yeah, but I bought in. It took me going to VCon for 2 years before I created any type of content
Wow,
online.
Chris. Cool.
But it finally got through to me that fuck, this is what you need. Like the way he puts it is that all businesses that are going to be successful, small business, medium size going forward, are all going to be media companies that just sell something. So
Yep.
that just made sense to me. And now I've got a guy like with Garrett here, the stuff that we're creating, and consistency is obviously the key. But what do you tell people that say who still haven't bought into social media?
I'd say I hope you're good with your hands. I hope you're a tradesman. Like because because that is an industry where I mean, hold on. Yes, you actually can use social media to your advantage. Huge.
Yeah.
Uh, for sure. But like the reality of the situation is like you can 100% decide that like nah, that's just not me. Awesome. But you also can't ignore the fact that if you want to sell something or if you want to help people or if you want to make a difference, you need eyeballs on you. And right now, there are eyeballs on phones. There are eyeballs on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts. There's eyeballs and ears. And like if you like, that's another thing too, is like people, I think, people will uh, work a job and be like, oh, I don't really like this job. I want to do a business so I can just do what I want to do. And it's like, okay, well, pause. Doing a business is definitely doing what you want to do, but it's also doing a lot of stuff you don't want to do. Like,
100%.
do I like sending DMs to people randomly and asking them about their fitness goals and like with the intention of getting them to work with me?
Mm-hmm.
Let's be transparent. Do I like doing that? No, I'd rather go for a walk. I'd rather be out like working out or hanging out with my friends or like drive a fast car. Like I'd rather do that. But like you got to do it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you got, if you're going to play the game, you got to play the game. And it's just like right now, social media is part of the game.
Yeah.
Like it just is. And if you have a different strategy, well, I mean, like, I don't know about it. And it's like, and it's also keeping in mind that like, yes, I think social media will, like, it's literally just like the news was a thing, newspapers before that were a thing, you know, and it progresses. So like social media is a huge thing right now, but like be open to the fact that in 10 years it might look different.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there's just like everything is going to evolve, and if you decide that like, nope, this is the hill I'm going to die on, great. But like that's just a simple shift in your perspective. Like if you want to do it, cool. Like it's like I really would love to, you know, be a great track athlete, but I don't like running. Okay, well, guess what? You know what I mean? Like you're just not going to be a good track athlete. Like it's kind of like that. So that's what I would say to those people. I'd be like, okay, well, I hope that you are really good with your hands, because there's a huge need for tradesmen and tradespeople right now.
Yeah.
So I really hope you're good at that, because there's a huge career that you can have. And then I hope you have a partner who is willing to do the social media for you, because if you pair the two, now you're like, you've got yourself this like niche business idea that's really novel and not a lot of people are willing to do.
Yeah.
You know,
who are some of the creators that you follow that you get some inspiration from, that you like to watch? Like I'm a big fan. I mean, you're in the space, but I mean, anybody that's Hormozzi's, Alex and Layla Hormozzi, like they are killing it. They are absolutely,
they're great.
And I mean,
I have both of his books right here beside my desk.
Aren't they good?
Yeah, they're amazing.
So you watch them, obviously.
Yeah, I watch Alex.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like I watch Alex. I don't really watch his wife much. Her name's Layla. I think Layla. Yeah, I'm more of like a read guy.
Okay.
Like I like to, if somebody has something, I want to read it in a book. And just like this, his two books, $100 million Leads and $100 million Offers, are sales books, and like they are so good because they're so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a guy who has figured out business, sales, and marketing. He's figured it out. You know, like sure, he would tell you probably there's lots more that I can figure out, but he has figured it out. You know, like yeah, he's incredible at what he does.
Yeah.
And look at the way he presents his information. And it's like going back to the coaching and stuff, like that's the same mold that I think about when I'm coaching people. Is like, that is when you get really, really, really good. Like Einstein says, you know, you understand something when you can explain it to a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. That's applicable to everything. And like, that's kind of like a North Star when it comes to like content creation or how I assess people or work with people or whatever. Just like that is a side tangent.
Yeah.
But you asked me who I
who else do you watch?
Look towards. I should be better at this. One guy that comes to mind right away is his name is James Smith. James Smith PT.
Okay.
He's got like a really kind of like he's got a really cool way about him. It's very kind of like just no bullshit, super not like really dramatic and stuff. But I actually don't like. I don't know. I don't really watch like anybody specifically. I for so long I was consuming so much information through courses and books,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized I got to a place, and this is like a huge thing that I don't know if it's every industry, but trainers do it big time, is you think that like if you just learn more, then your business will be better. And I realized like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, I don't know everything. I don't know 5% of all there is to know about the field that I'm in, but I do know enough to get people results.
Yeah.
So like my focus has shifted towards more of like, how do I run a successful business? Confident in the 10 years that I was like really in the weeds on, on all the stuff that I'm giving people when they sign up is like, is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like in more cases, way too much, like way too complex, way too in the weeds. So I don't know. I like books. Right now I'm reading Gabor Mate's work. He's got a book called The Myth of Normal. I read his book. He has a book on addiction. He's great. Really been kind of like listening to him. Podcasts, I don't really listen to many podcasts. I just kind of listen to music,
Mm-hmm.
read. I don't know. I listen to a lot of investment stuff. So like the content that I am consuming is actually outside of my work. Like I have two guys on YouTube that I listen to, or a couple guys on YouTube that I listen to about investment stuff. Money, finance,
Who-
like a little bit of like crypto and stuff like this. And like I'm just interested in that. And that's kind of like the content that I consume.
See, I love that too. Who are they that you listen to in the investment side?
The one guy, his channel's called New Money. He's an Australian guy, really really nice to listen to.
Yeah.
He basically is his I would say the main theme of his channel is he basically breaks down like investing for value investors.
Yeah.
So like kind of Warren Buffett type strategy, pick 3 or 4 great companies and just continuously add bags to them as you see price fluctuate, how to value companies, et cetera, et cetera. I think like that's the most simple, basic approach. I've tried other approaches and I've lost money. So I'm like, okay, I don't have the skill for this other approach. So I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other two guys, because I'm almost like it's I don't know. It's something that I never really talk about, but I am very intrigued by like this whole metaverse gaming uprising and what that's going to mean for like the shift in how people use gaming, because gaming's not going anywhere. With this whole thing of uprising of AI, I'm really interested in that sphere and its relation to cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like people are going to hear this and anyways, whatever. It's I never talk about this, but I'm not I wouldn't say like what's called like a maxi, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So I listen to like and I also love what's called like crypto Twitter, and I love the content that's created. It is literally for like 6-year-old kids. I think it's so ridiculous and so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I think it's funny. There's two guys. The one guy, he's a little more serious. His name's Elio Trades, and the one guy who's just an absolute gong show. He's playing a role. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a very successful business guy. He has software companies. His name's Alex Becker, and those are like two guys that one for comedy reasons, and two, they are spending a lot of time learning about this stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, in terms of content, like I'm really consuming stuff outside of my field of work for like for personal reasons. Yeah.
Nice. Well, so where can people find you? Somebody listen to this, they say, I want to train. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. You can just type in my name, Tyler Woelfle. And my Instagram handle is at Ty Woelfle. It's WOELFLE. And then my website is www.beoriginalcoaching.com. And those are the best places to find me. If you, I don't know if you'll be including my email in this. You can just send me an email. Check those a few times a week. If somebody listening to this is interested, you can get a hold of me through there as well.
Right on. So, anything you want to say to wrap up, to message to the 11 listeners we have out there, or
try Chris's tuna. It's my favorite. Whenever I come home, I'm always getting a big piece of that and eating it like very close to raw. So I would say, yeah, I think I've covered everything in terms of like what I don't really have any special message. I think you've got the gist of what I'm about, hopefully, by this point. And it was really nice. It was really nice being on here, man. It was good chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time, Tyler. So that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And remember, we're here to keep your meals hook, line, and simple. Thanks a lot, Tyler.
Thanks.